Well, the first cinema in Wymondham was at the Picture Theatre at Town Green. It opened in 1917, obviously showing silent films, and it continued up till 1940. In 1936, Douglas Bostock of Ipswich bought a plot of land in Friarscroft Lane for £160 to build a new purpose-built cinema, and it subsequently opened on the 18th of March 1937 with the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers film Swing Time. The total proceeds of the opening evening were £25, and that was donated to the Wymondham Nursing Association.
The Regal Cinema in Wymondham is one of the most wonderful success stories, really. Back in its history, when it was designed, the brief to the architect for the owner was he wanted a building that would last just 25 years because he saw no long-term future in the cinema. This was the Bostock family who were setting up a chain throughout East Anglia.
And it's coincidental that the Regal did subsequently close in June 1962. I think it probably closed because of television. In 1959, Anglia Television came on the scene, and I think by 1962 more people had vehicles, so it was easy for them to travel to Norwich to see the up-to-date films which the Regal couldn't show. After standing empty for 3 years, the Regal subsequently reopened on the 30th of April 1965. But when it first reopened, it really caught up with the cream of the films that it missed in its period of closure. On a Sunday evening, that was the most popular evening for the cinema, and sometimes that could get a bit rowdy. So Roy Dashwood, the proprietor, advertised for someone to come and keep things in order.
Well, there was an advert in the paper wanted somebody who could maintain strict discipline at the cinema, and a friend of mine who knew me, and he said to Roy Dashwood, I know a man. He's a rough old country boy and he lived at Hingham.
Well, it's legendary that on his first nights at the Regal, he was turning more people out than they were coming in, and Roy Dashwood was getting worried that he was doing his job too well.
And I think the first night I had to put 16 people outside. You know, it was a bit of a nuisance. And I remember Bob Harvey saying to Roy Dashwood to give me the job, he said, if we got more iron in now, if he carried on, we wouldn't have no one in there.
He was an ex-boxer, and being a big chap, I mean, he did manage to keep strict order in the cinema. And in the end, you know, it was just perfectly run because no one would argue with Les.
And I must have been doing a good job because I was made manager. And then I leased the cinema for a long time after that. But we had good staff, and the people did support the cinema them days. That's the best place to see a film, at the cinema on the big screen.
Les was a real showman, and he tried everything to keep that cinema going. Any little gimmick that Les could do, then he would try and do. He just loved the place, like all of us, and anything they could do to try and get people in. Little things like boxes of chocolates on Valentine's Day for the ladies.
Bring your wife to the pictures, and she could have a free box of chocolates, you know. They weren't the posh ones.
He would also have what's called a pets night, and someone could bring in their dog free of charge as long as it behaved itself.
In them days, they wouldn't know such thing as pooperscopes or whatever they are. They mostly liked the cartoons. I mean, if a dog barked, you have to be quiet. I could keep people quiet, but it was a bit difficult with trying to keep a dog quiet.
Well, he had a removal business, Les King's Olympic Removals, and in doing the removals, he would come across surplus furniture. So you'd never be surprised to go into the Regal one evening and find a three-piece suite for sale at a bargain price. Yes, there was one particular matinee where I was showing a Western to the children.
There was a girl come by on a horse once, and she stopped. I said, can we borrow your horse?
And so I said, whatever are you doing with that? He said, I'm going to take it into the hall. Can you hold it while I open the back doors?
So I got hold of the horse, we walked down one aisle, across the middle of the screen and back, you know.
I don't know if he was more surprised or frightened, the horse or the children.
Thankfully, we always just had enough to pay the bills.
By the 90s, the Regal had got very tired looking. We had obtained a new screen from the Gaumont Cinema in Norwich. When that closed, we were able to take the screen from there and replace our screen, and so we had that. But apart from that, there was no work done from when it was carried out in 1965.
At the end of the day, and the cinema was getting older, I had known people would bring a sleeping bag, put over their legs, but they didn't mind, and it wasn't the best place to keep warm, so we had long hot summers.
The curtains, when they were installed in 1937, they were royal blue, but over the years with the smoke, that's why they're now a dark colour, but they've hung there ever since, so they've done good work in 75 years. My main job is I worked at a solicitor's office dealing with property transactions and wills and probate, and then part-time as a projectionist and dealing with the bookwork at the Regal.
While he was sort of the brains of the outfit, he worked out the percentage we paid for the films. And
well, in a way, I feel I was a jack of all trades at the cinema. I have been in the cash desk, I've been in the suite kiosk, I've been a projectionist, and I also did the administrative work. So although, working at the cinema wasn't my career, it was a passion for me. I very much enjoyed both my jobs.
But the best thing, I think, was when we shot the Memphis Belle. Now, I was very fortunate because the fellow what had the calf, his brother was the pilot of a Sally B, because the Sally B was the B-17 flying for us, and that was stationed at Duxford. I said, could you do me a favour? We're going to show the film. Could we get the aeroplane to fly round Wymondham, the Regal? That actually flew around Wymondham when we had the film, and people couldn't believe it. We shot the film several times after that, and they always done well. What I think was the start of the closing the Regal was the multiplexes cinemas. We still went on a long while after the multiplexes. We weren't going to let them beat us.
Les King always said that the Wymondham Regal was the most hardest cinema to run because of its closeness to Norwich. The latest films are coming out, and he perhaps couldn't always get them as soon as he would like, and people would be hopping on a bus or getting in a car, driving very quickly into Norwich with no problem to see the latest film, and he had no chance. But it was quite testimony to him that he managed to keep it going as long as he could.
We kept the cinema going. All other cars, like Attleborough and Thetford and different places, they all closed down. But I do feel pleased that we kept this. The Bostock circuit, all the cinemas were built in 1937. I've hoped to keep this one as the last one remaining. I couldn't have done this without help, well, especially my friend Oliver Armstrong. I mean, he's a brilliant lad, and I think me and Michael are both going to be sorry that the cinema had to close. But when you look at everything, all the aspects of it, different things aren't like they used to be. And I think I made the right decision. Lots of cinemas closed, bankrupt, owing money. We had £5,000 in the bank when I left, and we didn't owe anybody any money, and we went with a good reputation.
You've got to give him credit for keeping this cinema open as long as it did.
Yeah, I have to look back in them days. I was young then, and when you look, you realise how old you're getting. Yeah, I always remember the Regal because when I first went to the pictures there on my bike from Hingham, it's the first cinema I went to. But that was good to me. But the best part about it was the people of Wymondham were good to me.
If you say what do I miss most about the old Regal, I think I'd say I miss my two friends up in the projection room, the two Cayley 12 projectors. They never let me down. There was a few teething problems, but they did sterling service, and they really did perform well over the years, and I did regard them as my friends. I used to tap them now and again and say, thank you, you've done well tonight. Well, when the cinema closed, I said to the ex-servicemen's club, would they like me to maintain the projectors? I think that was just as well I'd done that, because they could have just been cleared out, but it was through me having the projection room key and maintaining the projectors that they're still there. The first time I came into this projection room when I was about 12, and I came up here to play the records for the music before the film, and they were all 78 records at the time. And I'd also opened the curtains, which was operated by a hand cable drum on the wall. In addition to that, on a Saturday evening, I would get fish and chips for the staff. They had 3 shows on a Sunday, so they always had fish and chips. And we kept them warm on this carbon arc. I think it was sitting on the stool in the corner there and watching the projectionist lace up the projectors and what they were doing, and I marvelled at that.
And if one projector broke down before he could switch to the other one, he had to take the reel off. So I used to go in and say, we're sorry about the delay. Just think you're watching a film on TV. These are the ads. Or we change over the reel. Yeah, we had 1 or 2 problems. All cinemas did.
Put the lens down. Over the intermittent sprocket. Through to the sound head. And we take it through to the sprocket there. So we're now taking it through to the bottom sprocket of the sound head for the film to be threaded onto the take-up spool at the bottom, onto the take-up spool. I always wanted to make sure that it was a first-class performance, even down to dimming the lights at the right time and opening the curtains at the right time on the sensor and that sort of thing. I felt, the showmanship was a very major part of, putting on a good performance. I always wanted to do it, so it was just right. And then we set the film going. Well, the Regal Experience Group are a group of people very interested in cinema, and they wanted to try and provide Wymondham with cinema going again as it used to be in the olden days, the golden age of cinema, and enable people who were unable to travel to Norwich to the cinema to enjoy an afternoon out watching classic films in the environment that they had enjoyed many years ago. And they are enjoyed by people who used to come to the cinema but would no longer go to the cinema in Norwich, but they enjoy the nostalgia of being able to go back to the old Regal to see these films. It has been a massive part of my life, and I'm talking from the 50s right up to the present day, having been associated with it now in respect to the Regal Experience shows. And I would be very, very sorry if that building was to ever disappear. In 2003, I felt particularly honoured. We had a show called Appointment in London, and one of the guest stars was the late Jean Kent. And at the end of that show, the Mayor of Wymondham presented me with a civic award for my services to local cinema over the years, and I felt very honoured to have been presented with that award, especially from a film star who usually has an award presented to her. Oh, we've had many guests. Our first one was Jean Kent, and then we've had Sylvia Sims, Virginia McKenna, John Layton, June Whitfield, Rita Tushingham, just to name but a few. Yes, well, today the Regal Experience Group are showing the film Billy Liar at the old Regal Cinema, and our guest today is Helen Fraser, one of the stars, and she will be coming to see my home cinema here this morning with the Regal Experience Group, and then we shall have a spot of lunch and then go to the cinema at 2:30 for the show. Oh, good morning, Helen.
Hello.
Lovely to meet you.
Oh, and you. I've heard so much about you
Oh,
in the
have you?
cinema.
Oh, well,
I can't wait to see it.
I'm so pleased you could come.
Ah, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
well,
you.
if you'd like to come through this way.
Oh, and show me your specialty
yes,
cinema.
if you'd like to
Yes.
step through.
All right.
That's the main auditorium, if you'd like to walk through there.
Well, I was just knocked out. I mean, it's completely unique, isn't it? With all the sort of real seats and the real light fittings and little curtain going like that. I was just so excited by it, and it's really quite emotional, really. It's brought back so many memories.
Well, the Regal closed in June 1993. It was a big loss. I'd worked there for many years, and it was really like a second home to me. And I had my little cinema up and running in February 94. This is the second version. Through my disability, I had to, move to a bungalow, but I wouldn't move unless I could take the cinema with me. I wanted it to be, as far as possible, like the Regal was. I had such a passion for the Regal, and I was so pleased to be able to recreate it and include all these fittings which had meant so much over the years, and I still get pleasure now from being able to share that with other people. I think the Regal has played a prominent part in Wymondham life for a lot of years and has meant a lot to people, and I'm pleased that I've been able to save all the old bits and pieces and people can still enjoy coming to it, and I do have shows very regularly.